reminiscent of John's description of the glorified Christ in Revelation 1:13-16. In the book of Revelation itself, white is predominantly positive in meaning, as most of his appearance describe God, Christ, glorified saints, or associated objects like the great white throne. Overall, white suggests purity, righteousness, holiness, glory, victory, and perfection. This preponderance of positive symbolic meaning for the color white, without considering the mainly negative aspects of the other symbols, has led many interpreters to misidentify this horseman as a positive, even divine image. For starters, the white horseman carries a bow, a weapon of war. Strangely, John makes no mention of arrows or a quiver, although we may infer the former, since a bow is nearly worthless without arrows. Then again, the lack of arrows may suggest war, fought not with blood-letting weapons, but with words or ideas. See Psalms 11:2, 64:2-4, Jeremiah 9:8, Ephesians 6 verse 16. A bow is a purely offensive weapon, even more so than a sword, and it is highly effective from long range. For example, archers killed Uriah the Hittite and King Ahab of Israel and Josiah of Judah. Thus, the foremost idea behind this biblical symbol is powerful, penetrating, deadly accuracy with an intimation of distance. A sidelight of the bow's imagery is the frequency of its use as a symbol of God's judgment. Job complains, "His archers surround me. He pierces my heart and does not pity. He pours out my gall on the ground. He breaks me with wound upon wound." Job 16:13-14. See also Lamentations 2:4, chapter 3:12-13, Jeremiah 50, verse 9, also verse 14, 29, and chapter 51, verse 3. The white horseman bow then represents an effective instrument of God's judgment on the world for rebellion against him. Unlike the sword that Christ wields, Revelation 19:15, the bow's long-range hints at God being somewhat removed in his judgment, yet it is just as devastating in its effectiveness at meting out justice, or delivering justice, or distributing justice. In addition, whereas the sword symbolized the word of God, Ephesians 6, chapter 6, verse 17, Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12, his truth, the bow, suggests a counterfeit truth, a false gospel, as 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11-12 says, God will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. The rider of the white horse is given a crown to wear, after which he goes out conquering and to conquer. These two symbols are related both in their proximity in the verse and in their meanings. First, the word order suggests that being endowed with a crown allows or authorizes the horseman to go to war. Who gives him the crown? Notice Romans 13:1. For there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. And angels tell Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 4, verse 17, the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, gives it to whomever he will, and sets over it the lowest of men. God is sovereign over all earthly authority. That's key. We think we elect our leaders. I read again. God is sovereign over all earthly authority, and it is from him that this horseman receives his crown and purpose. Second, crowns generally represent some state of honor or blessing for the wearer. We normally associate crown with royalty, which in classical Greek is represented by the word diadema, which has come down to us as diadem. The word in Revelation 6:2, however, is Stephanos or Stephanus, a circlet, wreath, or garland, oftentimes made of leaves and twigs, but sometimes of precious metals. It was awarded as a prize of victory or triumph as a symbol of honor or authority, as a badge of civic worth or military valor, or as a sign of nuptial joy or festal gladness. Due to the verse's heavily martial emphasis, it is likely that the horseman crown signifies triumph, authority, or military valor. Third, this horseman goes out conquering and to conquer, a fairly literal rendering of the Greek. To us, this phraseology sounds strange, but it is merely expressing two different tenses of the same verb. The present participle and the aorist subjunctive. In other words, John is telling us that the horseman begins and continues to conquer, and he will certainly conquer or will ultimately conquer. The implication is that his entire purpose is to conquer, to dominate, to subjugate the people of the earth. Overall, the white horse and its rider are vivid representation of a powerful, aggressive, victorious force running unrestrained over mankind, like a knight in armor or a soldier in full dress uniform. The first horseman appears to the eye as glorious and noble, but its intent is to kill, destroy, and subdue its enemies. Its white facade is deceptive, concealing a deadly, unholy purpose. These interpretations of the symbol may seem highly speculative and arbitrary until we unlock their mystery with the key supplied by Jesus Christ himself in the Olivet prophecy. In a series of 4 verses, he decodes the meaning of the 4 horsemen. Of the white horseman, he says, "Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many." Matthew 24, verse 4 through 5. See Mark 13, 5 through 6. Luke 21, verse 8. The white horse and its rider represents religious deception. We are living in an age of religious and spiritual deception that is unprecedented. Yes, we have always had a degree of it, but not like today, when so many of God's people are fooled and affected. I will be referring to and reading from an article called Religious Deception by Professor Johan Malan, University of the North, South Africa, in this discussion. I am putting the link to this document in the more info section of this video in YouTube. The professor starts out by saying that the kingdom of darkness infiltrated the Christian church with a view to adulterating it by proclaiming a counterfeit Jesus, a counterfeit spirit, and a counterfeit gospel. I know, strong words, right? The spirit of the Antichrist is using so many deceitful and clever tactics to try and direct and distract God's people down the wrong path and away from God. However, the one I will address briefly in the short time I have in this video is another gospel. More specifically, I'll talk about dead formalism, kingdom gospel, and the interfaith gospel.